So, if you were paying attention to the news last evening, or if you follow my tech support Instagram, which you should by the way, link in the description, you will know that Apple finally released the iPhone SE second generation. They've been teasing the phone for a really long time, and it's the long-awaited future and updated version of the legendary iPhone SE, which came out what feels like forever ago. And it turns out the new iPhone SE might be the best iPhone that Apple has ever released, other than the first generation iPhone SE. And here's why. First, before we go into the new iPhone SE, let's talk about the old one. When the iPhone SE released years ago, it was arguably one of the best iPhones that Apple ever made. Its small form factor, its iconic squarish design, which the iPad Pro uses today, its smart and powerful processor, its good screen. It was a sleek, comfortable, practical, and timeless phone to own. And the new iPhone SE sort of does the phone some justice. Alright, now let's get into the new iPhone SE. Apple released it yesterday in not its usual flashy event. In fact, it was just a simple online announcement. And we're gonna start with the release and why it was so smart. The coronavirus has spread throughout the world. We're home-stricken. Millions are unemployed. So Apple has quite smartly decided to sell their cheapest and most affordable phone of the last 4 years at least. In this period of time, the economic downturn didn't just affect people in their homes. It also affected Apple as an entire company. And so what Apple does so intelligently and as a marketing genius that it is that it releases a mid-tier phone in the middle of this. You're talking about a phone that's competing with Motorola. It's competing with last year's Google Pixel. An iPhone. More likely than not, there's going to be huge interest. So now we just talked about why Apple is an absolute marketing genius. Let's actually talk about why this phone is the best phone Apple has ever released. Now when I say best phone, I don't mean best in terms of tech specs. I mean best in terms for the customers that buy the phone. You see, what made the iPhone SE so special was that it made Apple realize that people really like small phones. Not the chunky phones like the iPhone X, the iPhone 11. They're hard to hold and they're not really practical for most people. Instead, a bunch of people actually like sizes like this. Something that could easily fit in the palm of your hand. Easy to hold, easy to put in your pocket. And so Apple sort of brought back that design, but not quite. You see, the new iPhone SE is a combination of two phones. It's a combination of a 10R and a 7. It has the same form factor as a 7. Light, thin, simple to hold when you compare it to a chunky phone like this. And it kind of has the structure and backplating, aluminium and glass structure of the iPhone 10R. And it's a combination of these phones which make the new generation iPhone SE rather interesting. Because you have an iPhone basically the size of an iPhone 7 without the notorious notch, which we'll come to later, and with a home button, which by the way is amazing, with the processing power of this phone. And still, it's $200 cheaper. It has essentially whatever an iPhone 10R does, and slightly less, slightly more. So you see, that's why Apple was really smart, because you can't just make a $400 phone, $450 for the 128 gig model, because no one can live on a 64 gigabyte phone, not even if it's your secondary phone. That's a really big problem. That's a really big problem. I have no way Literally, no one can survive on a phone with that little storage. Gigabyte phone, because that is the best option for you. Okay, so let's look at some basics. It has the A13 Bionic chip, which is great. It's the exact same chip that's on the iPhone 11 Pro. It has a home button, and I'm so glad to see an iPhone with a home button in 2020. A slightly less pixel resolution than the iPhone 10R, but that won't really affect you, especially considering that it's such a small phone. It's IP67, so you can hold your phone down in 1 meter of depth for 30 minutes, and it has 4K footage, and that basically sums up why the iPhone SE is interesting. That's all. And the fact that it has little features that are new and some features which aren't there is what makes it such a good phone. Because if you think about it, the people buying this phone don't need those kind of features. If you're buying a $400 phone, it's because you're in the mid-range market. You're not a pro user, nor are you a really low user. You're sort of in the middle. And if you're a mid buyer and a mid consumer, you're not going to need such a powerful phone like an iPhone 11 Pro. You have no use for that phone. You're not even going to come close to the full capability of that phone ever. But anyways, back to where I was. The phone is ingenious because it targets the customer so brilliantly. It's what made the iPhone SE first generation so good. The iPhone SE showed that most people like basic phones. You don't need a flashy phone with 3 cameras and a text spec which people don't even understand. You could just have a simple phone and a good familiar form factor with a single camera, with a home button, with a simple screen, with a good processor, and that's why this phone is arguably the best phone iPhone has made, because it's so specific, it's so simple, and because of that, it's brilliant. An iPhone 7 with an iPhone 11 processor, with an iPhone XR body, it's basic, cheap, and brilliant. And of course, if you have the iPhone XR, if you have the iPhone 11 Pro already, or even if you have the iPhone 11, the phone is not for you. There's no point of downgrading to a phone. And yes, I say downgrading because it is lower. Even though it has an A13 processor, it doesn't necessarily mean it's more powerful. So, if you want a phone with 1 camera, which can fit in your pocket, and is definitely in your budget, at least for an iPhone, the iPhone SE is for you. If you got all the way through this video until this point, thank you so much. I honestly really appreciate it. If you could do just one more thing for me, it's 1 click and you have no idea how much support it gives to me. So go ahead and press the subscribe button, press the like button or dislike button, comment, do whatever you want. I'm gonna go get back to school. So see you in the next one.